Welcome, fellow seekers of history's shadows. Tonight, we journey back nearly 5 millennia to the land between two rivers, where faith and fear walked hand in hand. But before we begin, I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from. Are you winding down for sleep under Manchester's cloudy skies, easing into evening in Melbourne's gentle dusk, or finding a moment of calm somewhere in between? Wherever you are, I'm grateful you've joined me. In this exploration, how Sumerian physicians used crushed beetles to treat fevers, you'll drift through clay-walled infirmaries, inhale incense-scented whispers of ritual, and learn how beetles of all creatures became medicine. If these soothing histories resonate, please subscribe so you never miss our descent into the past's quieter corners. Now, settle back. Let your breathing slow. Imagine lamplit courtyards, hushed chants, and the soft rattle of powdered beetles in a clay mortar. Close your eyes and let us wander together into an age when healing was as much ritual as science, and every remedy felt like a small miracle under Babylon's starlit sky. In the hush before dawn, the ziggurat's sandstone walls absorb the first pale glow of dawn. Inside a low-ceiling chamber, the young priest-physician, Nasir, kneels beside a shallow basin of water. His breath is steady, the only sound beyond distant temple bells. He dips a reed stylus tip into wet clay, and with careful strokes, records a new case history. Patient, Hamu, age 40. Fever uncontrolled for 3 days. Each tablet he drafts feels sacred, as though the act of writing itself channels divine care. Outside, the murmur of the Euphrates ripples through reed screens. Nasir pauses to listen, believing that even the river's rhythm carries hints of the body's own ebb and flow. He recalls his master's words. To heal is to read between the lines of suffering. Today, that means blending measured doses of clay with crushed beetles, an age-old remedy believed to draw heat from the flesh. His apprentice watches, eyes wide in reverent curiosity, as the clay darkens with each powdered wing. Here, in this temple infirmary, science and ritual intertwine. Nasir's hands move with precision and devotion, each stroke on the tablet, each grain of medicine weighed on copper scales, is an offering to the gods of Eridu and Nippur. As the first sunbeam slants through a narrow window slit, he closes his eyes in silent prayer, ready to administer the cure and inscribe another chapter in Sumer's legacy of healing. Before the sun climbs high, the apprentice Dumuzi slips through the temple's side entrance toward the riverbank. The air carries a faint tang of morning dew and mud. His linen tunic, once crisp, now bears subtle smudges of earth, testaments to earlier trials in the herb courtyard. Clutched in one hand is a small reed basket, in the other, a broken pottery shard for scraping clay. On the bank, Dumuzi kneels at the water's edge and gently scrapes a shallow layer of fine, pale clay from a submerged ledge. He murmurs a silent greeting to Enki, the god of waters, believing each collection is a ritual act of respect. With methodical care, he packs the damp clay into the basket. Nearby, a scattering of scarab beetles flitters among reeds. Dumuzi extends a steady hand, and recalling the physician's guidance, lifts one onto a nearby stone. With a practiced twist, he crushes the insect's shell, the click echoing softly. He repeats this until the basket's narrow weave bulges with both clay lumps and beetle fragments. His movements are deliberate, almost meditative. Each handful of earth and each pulverized wing feels part of a larger tapestry, ancient practices woven through generations. By mid-morning, Dumuzi has gathered enough raw materials to prepare several doses of fever paste. He pauses to brush stray clay from his palms, inhaling the cool mineral scent. In that moment, he knows these simple acts, collecting clay and beetles, bridge the gap between Earth's hidden bounty and human healing. Within the temple's inner sanctum, the air holds a soft haze of incense. Torches flicker against polished alabaster walls, gilded with bas-reliefs of Enki's watery domain. High Priestess Ninmuk stands before a low altar, her amber robe embroidered with lapis blue threads. She raises a bronze censer, allowing spirals of fragrant myrrh smoke to curl skyward. Each breath feels like coaxing out hidden tensions, as if the incense carries away fever's very essence. 4 acolytes kneel around a shallow basin filled with spring water. With slender reed wands, they sprinkle drops in a precise rhythm, 1 for body, 2 for spirit, 3 for the breath. Their chant is measured, almost imperceptible, a soft drone that seems to emanate from the very stones. Ninmug's gaze, serene but vigilant, shifts to the empty clay bowls waiting on a nearby shelf. Those bowls, soon to hold the beetle-clay paste, must be consecrated. She anoints them with rosemary infusion, murmuring, an invocation. Let each vessel unite earth and sky, body and soul. Time slows as ritual and medicine converge. The torchlight dances across the priestess's calm features, showing a quiet determination. For her, every gesture, each rose petal strewn, each libation poured, is a vow to heal. As the final note of the chant fades, Ninmug lifts her eyes toward the narrow skylight, letting a sliver of sunlight bless the sanctified space. In that moment, the temple feels alive, its stones humming with promise that fever might be banished, if only for a while. Outside the temple's heavy wooden doors, a hush falls over the clay courtyard. A farmer's wife, Eninu, is led forward on a reed-strewn pallet. Her cheeks glow with fever, and her breath comes in shallow bursts. She wears a mud-stained wool dress, the hem frayed from daily labor. As she is gently lowered, the young priest-physician Ea-Nasir greets her with a soft, encouraging tone. Peace be with you, Eninu. The gods see your suffering. He lays a reassuring hand on her wrist, feeling the rapid pulse beneath cool fingertips. The courtyard is ringed by low benches where family members stand, anxious yet hopeful. The midday sun leaks through woven mats overhead, casting dappled patterns on clay brick. Ea-Nasir calls for Dumuzi, who arrives bearing a shallow dish of the beetle-clay paste. He places it on a stone table beside fresh jugs of palm water. The physician examines Eninu's tongue, notes its dryness and redness, then nods gravely. He mixes a small portion of paste with water to a drinkable consistency. As Eninu lifts the cup, her hand trembles slightly, but her eyes reflect trust. The courtyard falls silent, save for the soft lapping of water and the distant call of a temple bell. Each onlooker seems to hold their breath alongside her. Ea-Nasir offers a gentle smile, his calm presence like an anchor. When she drinks, the bitter, earthy flavor lingers, but she swallows resolutely, accepting both medicine and faith. Back inside the infirmary chamber, the soft glow of lamps reveals shelves lined with jars of herbs, powdered minerals, and carved wooden boxes. Ea-Nasir stands behind a low wooden table where Dumuzi has arranged the day's gathered clay and crushed scarab fragments. The walls, painted in muted terracotta tones, seem to lean inward, focusing attention on the simple act of healing. Ea-Nasir lifts his pestle, pressing it gently into the coarse clay. With measured strokes, he grinds the mixture into a fine paste. The sound is a soft scrape, like distant waves on riverbanks. He adds a pinch of ground marsh-mallow root, known to soothe burning throats, and a drop of date syrup to mask the remedy's bitterness. His apprentice watches closely, ready to assist. As the mixture reaches a smooth consistency, Ea-Nasir pauses. He dips a reed spatula into the paste and spreads a thin layer onto Eninu's forehead and temples, areas thought to radiate excess heat. He murmurs a blessing. May this earthborn elixir draw forth fever as the river draws to the sea. Dumuzi places a linen cloth gently over the application, ensuring the paste remains in contact with her skin. Each gesture feels ritualistic, yet purposeful, a bridge between tactile science and sacred tradition. The paste glimmers in lamplight, flecked with tiny iridescent beetle shells. In that moment, the chamber holds a quiet hope. Here, at the crossroads of clay and spirit, Sumer's ancient wisdom is alive, its promise of relief contained in every grain of mixture and every whispered invocation. In a sunlit courtyard tucked behind the temple's outer walls, a stone sculptor named Kulab works with quiet concentration. His tools, a small bronze chisel and a polished flint blade, click softly against a pale limestone block. Before him, the outline of a scarab beetle begins to emerge. Its rounded back, segmented wing cases, and tiny legs curled beneath. Locals believe the scarab embodies life's renewal, a symbol fitting for healing. Each tap of the chisel feels like a prayer. Kulab's hands are calloused but steady. His linen robe bears faint specks of dust and pigment from earlier carvings. He pauses to brush away shavings and admires the emerging figure. Nearby, a shallow basin of water reflects the insect's form, reminding him that this amulet will one day rest against a patient's brow, channeling that same life force. As he smooths the beetle's shell with sand-soaked cloth, he recalls the physician's instruction. Thoughtful, inscribe each scarab with the patient's name and ailment. Let it carry their plight to Enki. Later, Kulab will dip the finished amulet into consecrated oil and hand it to the priest-physician. Here, the artisan's work merges art and medicine, belief and practicality. In the hush, the courtyard feels alive, shadows shifting with the sun, birds chirping in distant palms. The scarab's gentle form promises more than adornment. It signifies hope, a bridge between Earth's creatures and human healing. Within the cool shadow of the infirmary, elder physician Ubatutu stands before a semicircular workbench. His silver-streaked beard frames a calm, weathered face. Around him, jars containing ground minerals and dried herbs line low shelves. In the center rests a stone mortar, still damp from the morning's preparations. A younger physician watches as Ubatutu pours a handful of beetle shells into the bowl. With deliberate precision, he raises the pestle and begins a steady circular motion. Each turn produces of grinding fragments. He pauses to inspect the powder's texture, then adds a pinch of ground galangal root, believed to amplify the beetle's heat-drawing properties. His apprentice mimics the motion on a smaller pestle, learning the exact pressure needed to avoid bruising the clay mixture. As the powder takes on a uniform consistency, Ubatutu recalls the Remedies' ancient lineage, how generations of healers trusted these crushed scarabs to quell fever's fire. He scans his clay tablet notes, dosage ratios, application sites, and ritual phrases to accompany each treatment. Finally, he uses a reed scoop to transfer the finished powder into small labeled clay jars. Each container bears the patient's name in precise cuneiform, ready to be mixed into paste at the bedside. Here, the act of crushing beetles is more than alchemy. It's a testament to Sumer's entwined faith in Earth's creatures and divine favor. In the soft lamplight, Ubatutu's measured movements feel almost like a dance, a ritual in miniature that bridges knowledge, belief, and the humble promise of relief. In the shaded scriptorium adjoining the temple's healing wing, Scribe Idintar pores over a half-filled clay tablet. Sunlight filters through lattice windows, illuminating columns of neat cuneiform. He traces a passage describing the beetle remedy. Combine 1 part scarab powder to 3 parts earth clay. Anoint temples and souls at dawn. Idintar's reed stylus hovers as he transcribes, ensuring each wedge-shaped mark is flawless. Beside him, An open scroll of papyrus shows diagrams of beetle anatomy, wing joints, mandibles, and shell ridges. He cross-references both sources, comparing versions to correct a discrepancy in the treatment's ritual incantation. His ivory inlay stylus glides smoothly, leaving crisp impressions in the damp clay. Occasionally, he dips into a bowl of water to soften stubborn edges, careful not to blur adjacent lines. Around the table, assistants deliver fresh tablets, stacking them in neat piles. The room smells faintly of wet clay and aged papyrus. Idintar pauses to inhale, savoring the tactile bond between earth and knowledge. Each tablet he inscribes ensures future physicians can replicate the beetle cure precisely, guaranteeing that wisdom endures beyond any single healer's lifetime. When he finishes the final line, he presses a small clay seal bearing the temple's emblem, a rosette surrounded by stylized wings, onto the surface. The seal will bake in the kiln, merging his work forever with the temple's legacy. In that moment, Idintar feels the weight of countless patients, whose fevers will ease thanks to these enduring words. At dawn, the small courtyard outside the infirmary fills with soft golden light. A local shepherd named Lugal Tupi stands barefoot on packed earth, his woolen cloak draped loosely over one shoulder. His eyes gleam with cautious optimism as he presents himself for the beetle remedy trial. Having laboured under a persistent fever after a rainy night in the marshes, he seeks relief both for his body and his family's peace of mind. Physician Ubatutu greets him gently, inspecting Lugal Tupi's pulse and tongue. He murmurs instructions to Dumazi, who prepares a shallow clay bowl containing the freshly mixed beetle-clay paste. The shepherd sits on a low stone bench, taking the bowl in his rough, calloused hands. He breathes deeply, steadying himself against the paste's earthy scent. With the physician's nod, he applies the mixture to his temples and wrists, points believed to draw fever outward. A hush falls over onlookers, family members, fellow shepherds, and curious temple attendants. Even the temple cat pauses its prowling to watch. Lugal Tupi tilts his head back, pressing the paste with deliberate care, his expression serene despite the unfamiliar texture. As he waits for the remedy to take effect, he shares a quiet dialogue with Ubatutu, his symptoms, his fears, and his hope for restored strength. The physician listens, offering soft reassurances. In those exchanged words, faith and healing converge. For Lugal Tupi, this trial is more than medicine. It is an act of trust in Sumer's ancient wisdom and the scars of history etched in every crushed beetle. Late afternoon brings a gentle breeze through the infirmary courtyard. Lugal Tupi returns to the healing space, his fever noticeably diminished. He limps slightly but stands straighter than before. Physician Ubatutu and the apprentice Dumuzi await his report beside an altar draped in blue linen. A small oil lamp flickers in anticipation. Ubatutu invites Lugal Tupi to speak. "How do you feel, friend?" The shepherd's voice carries warmth as he describes diminished heat, strengthened limbs, and clearer thoughts. Those gathered, farmers, temple workers, and travelers, shift from solemn hope to quiet celebration. Ubatutu removes the dried paste from Lugal Tupi's skin, then sprinkles rosewater over his head in a swift blessing. The scent mingles with cooling evening air. Next, Ubatutu addresses the assembly. "Praise Enki, for the earth has yielded both clay and insect to heal our brother." He recites a brief chant, calling on healing deities and honoring the scarab's role. Attendants echo the closing lines, their voices soft but unified. Lugal Tupi kneels to receive a carved scarab amulet from Kulab, pressing it to his heart. As torchlight emerges against dusk, the assembled crowd disperses, carrying news of the remedy's success. In the flickering glow, Ubatutu and Dumuzi record the outcome on a new clay tablet. Their script will guide future treatments, ensuring that crushed beetles remain more than folklore. They become part of Sumer's living medical tradition, celebrated in whispered hopes and shared across generations. Before light spills over the temple's threshold, the high priest Enlil-Idin stands before a brass brazier filled with smouldering juniper. The rising smoke coils like living serpents as he murmurs an invocation to Ishara, goddess of healing. He believes fever is more than illness. It's divine fire cleansing the body. Tonight, he will interpret its flickers. Enlil-Idin takes a reed divining rod and dips its tip into the brazier's embers, then lets a single glowing spark drift onto an ash-laden dish. Where the ember skitters indicates which organ holds the fever's fiercest heat. He surveys the patterns. A cluster near the rim suggests spleen inflammation. A lone spark at center points to lung fever. His apprentice, Idin Illa, watches with wide eyes as the high priest Gravely nods gravely, translating ember movement into treatment directives. Outside, torches sputter in the courtyard, and distant temple bells toll in time with the brazier's hiss. Enlil-Idin's voice is calm but resonant. The fire rises in the blood, we shall draw it down. He sketches cuneiform symbols on a clay tablet to record tonight's divination. Each mark is a promise that mortal suffering aligns with cosmic order, and that through ritual, fever can be coaxed back into balance. In a corner of the infirmary, mid-morning light filters through woven mats. Physician Ninsun Meyer examines the patient Onamu, gently probing his wrist to count the tremor of pulse beneath swollen veins. She believes fever cycles mirror celestial rhythms, waxing and waning like the moon. Ninsun Meyer's soft voice guides Onamu through slow breathing, while she notes each rise and fall of his chest. A reed tube pressed lightly to his ear captures the faint whoosh of blood, which she compares against earlier clay tablets charting his fever's ebb over 3 days. Today's measurings will reveal whether his fever crests at dusk or subsides by dawn, critical for timing the next beetle-clay application. Around them, the infirmary brims with quiet activity. An apprentice stirring herbal infusions, a scribe tallying symptom logs, and a temple cat curled on a reed mat. Ninsun Meher records her observations in soft scratches of stylus on wet clay. She pauses, tasting a drop of warm palm water, an old habit to ensure her own senses remain attuned. Then she smiles faintly at Namu. Soon the fever's tide will turn in our favor. At midday, the temple's herb courtyard bustles with quiet industry. Curly-leafed oleander and lemon balm grow in sun-warmed beds. A female healer, Ninisina, kneels over mortar and pestle, crushing fever-relieving borage flowers to extract their cooling essence. She mixes the floral paste into a fresh beetle clay base, an alliance of insect mineral and herbal comfort. Her fingers, stained green from leaves, move deftly. Her linen apron bears smears of pigment from earlier pigment paints. As she works, she hums an old lullaby, teaching that the earth offers layered cures. Stone, shell, and leaf entwine to soothe life's heat. Nearby, apprentices gather scattered sprigs of mint and yarrow, preparing decoctions to serve as aftercare. Ninisina pauses to sprinkle a pinch of crushed galangal over the mixture, stirring until the paste exudes a faint, sweet aroma. She ladles a portion into a clay bowl, then steps toward the infirmary door, cradling the remedy like a sacred offering. In her wake, the courtyard's gentle rustle of leaves and birdsong seems anodyne, nature itself joining the ritual of relief. Long after dusk, the midwife Enktuya moves silently through narrow corridors toward a private chamber where a feverish child lies. Lantern light glints on her braided hair, woven with small shells. Though her title is midwife, she is also known as a tender caretaker of fevers in the community. Inside, the child Mokash wears a linen shift damp from nightly sweats. Enctuya places cool poultices of beetle-clay and lavender-infused oil on his temples, a soft lullaby. She checks his forehead with the palm of her hand, then smooths stray curls away from his brow. In one hand, she holds a shallow bowl of warm date tea, steeped with fever-fighting cinnamon. She encourages the child to sip gently, eyes glowing with warmth. As Mokash drinks, Enctuya a blessing. May Nintinuga's grace calm your fever's flames. The child's breathing eases, and a faint smile tugs at his lips. Outside, the corridor is silent but for distant temple bells marking each hour. For Enctuya, these nocturnal ministrations are both duty and devotion, weaving maternal care into Suma's healing tapestry. As twilight deepens, the temple's healing council convenes in a stone chamber lined with low benches. Around a central brazier, physicians, priestesses, and elders, 15 in all, take their places. At the head sits Enlil Idin, his divining rod resting across his lap. Scrolls and tablets lie open before each member. Tonight's topic: refining the beetle-clay remedy. Ninsun Mare presents fever cycle data showing optimal application at dusk. Nini Sina offers her herbal integration results, pointing to improved patient comfort with floral additions. A younger physician suggests adjusting clay ratios for thicker paste, improving skin adhesion. Each speaks calmly, their voices carrying the gentle cadence of ritual debate rather than heated argument. Enlil Idin listens, then raises a hand, calmly. He proposes a united protocol, a threefold treatment combining divination, timing, beetle-clay application, and herbal aftercare. Each segment to be recorded in a new temple compendium. A scribe records the consensus in careful cuneiform, sealing the collective wisdom into clay for future generations. As candles gutter, the council stands in unison, offering a final chant to Nana, the moon god, asking for clarity and healing under his watch. Buddha olabi ga kiwa nana. Their voices blend into the night, a gentle echo of shared purpose. Outside, the first stars glimmer, silent witnesses to Suma's enduring pursuit of alleviating human suffering, one meticulously crafted remedy at a time. As first light gilds the mud brick stalls of Ur's bustling bazaar, vendors lay out jars of scented oils, bundles of dried herbs, and clay pots of powdered remedies. Among them, physician merchant Inashu arranges small amphorae filled with beetle-clay paste. He lifts the lid, inhaling its earthy aroma, and arranges labels in neat cuneiform for fevers and night sweats. The crowd gathers, farmers, caravan guards, and temple attendants, drawn by the promise of relief. Inashu greets each visitor with a nod and a soft greeting, calmly, "Peace be upon you. May this remedy ease your fever's flame." His stall's woven reed awning casts patterns of light and shadow across earthen jars. A farmer's wife examines the paste's texture through a small wooden scoop. A traveling scribe inspects the label's script for authenticity. As trading picks up, Inashu records each sale on a clay tally tablet, fingers moving with practiced ease. The ambient noise, clamour of bargainers, clink of pottery, distant donkey brays, forms a soothing backdrop. By mid-morning, his first amphorae will be en route to temple-infirmaries and distant towns. Here, medicine is as much commerce as care. Inashu's interactions are gentle yet purposeful. He knows each transaction spreads Sumer's healing traditions. As the sun rises higher, he pauses to bless his goods with a quick utterance to Gula, goddess of healing. Reverently, guide these cures to those in need. Then, with calm confidence, he readies more jars for sale, each one a promise of renewed health carried on the morning breeze. Along the bazaar's edge, a tall trader named Sharu Insa emerges from a laden camel caravan. His vibrant cloak, stitched with camel motifs, ripples in the morning breeze. He carries exotic goods, frankincense resin, lapis lazuli beads, and wooden chests brimming with dried scarabs sourced from distant valleys. Inashu approaches, offering a small vial of beetle-clay paste in exchange. They sit cross-legged on a woven mat, jars and scrolls arrayed between them. Sharu Insa uncorks the vial and brings it close, inhales deeply, inhaling deeply. This aroma is like the shadow of the Euphrates at dusk, he muses. Inashu nods, then unrolls a scroll detailing the Remedies' proven cases. Sharu Insa unrolls his own. Sketches of scarab shell piles and trading routes etched in faded ink. The air hums with respectful silence as they compare records. After measured discussion, half in Sumerian dialect, half in Akkadian, they settle on a trade. 2 jars of beetle-clay paste for every 6 chests of dried scarabs. They seal the agreement by pressing clay seals onto shared tablets, each bearing their personal emblems. Sharu Insa's eyes gleam with anticipation, knowing he'll carry these potent jars south to Dilmun's shores. Meanwhile, Inashu secures rare scarabs for future remedy preparations. In that moment, commerce and healing entwine. Each man respects the other's expertise, one in medicine, one in trade. As the camel bells jingle and the bazaar's din swells, their small deal ripples through Mesopotamia's interconnected world of cures and commodities. Under a shaded alcove, a quality inspector named Enlil Zug prepares for the day's first test. He sets out a bronze balance scale, hanging tiny copper pans. In one, he places a precise dose of beetle-clay powder. In the other, a standardized weight of polished copper discs. Beside him, an apprentice holds clay jars open, ready for inspection. Enlil Zug examines each jar's contents by sight and touch. He rubs a pinch of powder between his fingers, feeling its grit and warmth. He sifts some through a fine reed sieve, ensuring no large shell fragments remain. Next, he mixes a small amount with water, gauging how smoothly it forms paste. If the consistency falters, he notes the batch for re-grinding. Each assessment is recorded on a thin clay tablet, columns of cuneiform tallying batches, dates, and outcomes. Local physicians and traders queue patiently, watching the process. When Enlil Zug nods approval, they collect sealed jars stamped with his personal emblem, a stylized balance scale. One rejected batch is set aside for further processing. In the midday light, the alcove feels cool and orderly, a quiet counterpoint to the bazaar's bustle. Through these careful tests, Sumerian medicine retains its integrity. Each jar that passes Enlil Zug's scrutiny carries not just crushed beetles, but assurance that relief will reach fevered bodies as intended, consistent, measured, and true. As afternoon wanes, the caravan leader, Amat Enlil, prepares to depart for distant Elam. Camels kneel beneath yokes laden with jars of approved beetle-clay paste, their orange-hued ceramic lids sealed with resin. Traders adjust saddle panniers full of date loaves and salted fish for the journey. Amat Enlil, clad in dark leather jerkin and woolen shawl, inspects each camel, sang saikane to them as if offering reassurance. He checks the trade tablets tied to their harnesses, inscriptions detailing destination, consignee, and cargo contents. Near the lead camel, Inashu places a final handful of date sugar-coated paste into a pouch, a special gift for his Elamite counterpart. They clasp hands in mutual respect, healer and trader united by shared purpose. As the sun nears the horizon, a trumpeter signals departure. The caravan rises in unison. Camel bells. Dust curls beneath padded feet. With rhythmic sway, they drift down the dusty road leading east, carrying Suma's remedy beyond its cradle. Onlookers watch until lanterns flicker along the last silhouettes. In that moment, the beetle-clay's journey truly begins. An odyssey of healing stretching across deserts and mountains. Days later, beyond the Zagros foothills, the Elamite healer, Naparisha Sutu, stands in her sun-warmed clinic. She examines a jar of Sumerian beetle-clay paste, its label still bearing Inashu's seal. Clutching a reed stylus, she notes local variations, adding crushed pomegranate rind to counteract excess dryness caused by her region's arid climate. Her clay-walled room is adorned with glazed brick panels depicting water deities. Naparisha Sutu removes the jar's lid, mixing a small batch with rose-infused spring water. She tests the paste's texture, then applies it to a patient's aching temples, a desert nomad suffering from fever after a sandstorm. The patient winces at first, then relaxes as the paste cools against sunburned skin. Naparisha Sutu records the adapted formula on a new clay tablet, titling it Elamite Variant, Beetle-clay and Pomegranate. She stamps her personal seal beside inner shoes, acknowledging the cure's origin and its localized twist. Outside, palm fronds rustle in a warm breeze, carrying the promise that Sumer's knowledge endures, evolving with each healer's insight. In this humble clinic, two cultures converge. Sumerian tradition meets Elamite innovation. From crushed beetles to pomegranate rind, every ingredient reflects the earth's bounty and humanity's endless quest to tame fever's fire across distant lands. In a dusky workshop near the temple precinct, a skilled metalsmith named Ur-Shesh crafts a bronze mortar and pestle for the infirmary. The orange glow of the forge dances across his soot-smudged face as he hammers molten bronze into a sturdy bowl. Each strike rings like a heartbeat, echoing through the vaulted space. He molds the mortar's interior to a gentle curve, ideal for grinding beetle shells and herbs into a fine paste. As the metal cools, Ur-Shesh polishes the exterior with a cloth dipped in olive oil, revealing faint hammer marks that testify to the artisan's hand. He inscribes a small sunburst motif at the rim, a blessing to Gula, goddess of healing. Nearby, apprentices fan the forge, their linen tunics streaked with ash. One fetches water to temper the bronze, producing a hiss that mingles with the workshop's rhythmic clamour. This mortar will become an indispensable tool in the infirmary, its smooth hollow resisting cracks while enduring countless grindings. Ur-Shesh pauses to admire his work, sensing the mortar's future role, melding earth and insect into curative clay. He straps it into a leather satchel for delivery, confident that this simple vessel will carry the weight of Sumerian medicine's hopes. In the infirmary's supply alcove, Ninsun Meher and her apprentice Unhuku adjust a pair of delicate copper scales. The scales hang from a carved wooden beam, pans swaying gently when touched. With a small bronze weight set and polished copper discs, Ninsun Meher ensures each gram of beetle clay powder will be measured precisely. Accuracy here means the difference between gentle relief and lingering fever. Using a fine reed brush, she dusts ash from the pans to prevent slipping. Then with the reed stylus, she marks off calibration notches on a clay tablet. 120 shekels equals 1 mina. 5 shekels per dose. Unhuku watches, wide-eyed as she demonstrates the subtle balancing act, adding tiny copper pellets until the pans level perfectly. Once calibrated, the scales gleam in torchlight, ready for hundreds of daily measurements. Ninsun Meher places a jar of authenticated beetle clay powder on one pan and a known weight on the other, nodding with satisfaction when they find perfect equilibrium. She encourages Unhuku to test each batch, passing her the stylus to record results. These scales, though simple, uphold the temple's reputation for consistent care. As Unhuku practices, she internalizes the precision and patience required, qualities every healer must master. Together, they ensure that each dose carries the exact potency Sumerian physicians have perfected over generations. Within the temple's inner sanctum, the air holds a soft haze of incense. Torches flicker against polished alabaster walls, gilded with bas-reliefs of Enki's watery domain. High Priestess Ninmug stands before a low altar, her amber robe embroidered with lapis blue threads. She raises a bronze censer, allowing spirals of fragrant myrrh smoke to curl skyward. Each breath feels like coaxing out hidden tensions, as if the incense carries away fever's very essence. 4 acolytes kneel around a shallow basin filled with spring water. With slender reed wands, they sprinkle drops in a precise rhythm, 1 for body, 2 for spirit, 3 for the breath. Their chant is measured, almost imperceptible, a soft drone that seems to emanate from the very stones. Ninmug's gaze, serene but vigilant, shifts to the empty clay bowls waiting on a nearby shelf. Those bowls, soon to hold the beetle clay paste, must be consecrated. She anoints them with rosemary infusion, murmuring an invocation. Let each vessel unite earth and sky, body and soul. Time slows as ritual and medicine converge. The torchlight dances across the priestess's calm features, showing a quiet determination. For her, every gesture, each rose petal strewn, each libation poured, is a vow to heal. As the final note of the chant fades, Ninmug lifts her eyes toward the narrow skylight, letting a sliver of sunlight bless the sanctified space. In that moment, the temple feels alive, its stones humming with promise that fever might be banished, if only for a while. As dusk settles, Dumuzi and Ninsun Meher prepare evening doses of beetle-clay paste by candlelight. The infirmary's lamps are dim to conserve oil, and each flicker casts long shadows on the mud bricks. They lay out small trays of clay bowls, reed spatulas, and copper scales. Dumuzi carefully scoops measured powder into each bowl, while Ninsun Meher pours fresh palm water to create a smooth paste. Their hands move with synchronized precision, a testament to hours of practice. After mixing, Dumuzi seals each portion with a dab of date syrup, forming a small dome that won't dry out overnight. They refer to the day's diagnostic tablet. 5 shekels per dose at dusk, adjusted to 3 shekels for the elderly in cooler months. Ninsun Meher inscribes each bowl's outer rim with the patient's initials in cuneiform, using a wet stylus. Dumuzi arranges lanterns around the table to ensure consistent light. In the hush of evening, the ritual of dosage preparation becomes meditative. Each measured bowl represents not just a remedy, but a promise to ease another's fevered rest. When finished, they place the trays on a low bench, ready for the night attendant to deliver. Then, before leaving, they offer a whispered prayer. May these measured portions bring equal measure of relief. In a private chamber within the governor's palace, soft tapestries muffle courtly bustle. Princess Enheduanna reclines on a low divan, her face pale from fever. A silk shawl covers her shoulders, embroidered with gold thread. Physician Minister Akur Gal enters, bearing a bowl of freshly mixed beetle-clay paste, infused with rose water to suit royal tastes. He bows respectfully, placing the bowl on a gilded table beside crystal vials of cooling oils. Enheduanna's chief attendant assists as Akurgal smooths the paste onto the princess's temples and the soles of her feet, sites believed to draw heat downward. She winces slightly, but when he murmurs soothing words and brushes her hair back, her gaze softens. Akurgal consults his clay tablet, reciting the prescribed ritual. At first light, apply honey clay. At dusk, the unadorned paste. He pours a small measure of warm date tea into a porcelain cup for the princess to sip. Outside, court musicians play a gentle lyre refrain, designed to calm nerves. As the paste sets, Akurgal offers a final blessing. May Marduk grant swift recovery and protect your reign. Enheduanna closes her eyes, reclining deeper, and the royal attendants quietly withdraw. In the hush, the palace's grandeur fades, leaving intimate trust between healer and sovereign. Proof that even the highest birthright kneels before the simplest of remedies. At dawn's first light, the infirmary stirs with hushed activity. Lanterns still glow along the corridor as Dumuzi leads the morning rounds. He carries a reed tablet listing patients and their overnight observations, fever highs, sweats, and any restless sleep. Each pallet bears a small bowl of cooled beetle-clay paste, now firm but still potent. Dumuzi pauses at a Ninnu's pallet. Her breathing is calmer, her cheeks less flushed. He gently lifts the linen cloth to inspect the paste's residue, noting its dried texture. Scribbling a brief note, he adjusts her next dose, 3 shekels at mid-morning. Across the room, Abhigal checks Urnamu's pulse with reed tubes, comparing rhythm against tablets charting his fever's descent. As they progress, the pair exchange soft words about each patient's comfort. Fresh palm water for the pregnant midwife's fever, a warmed herbal compress for the shepherd's lingering chills. The infirmary feels alive with purpose. Each bedside exchange a quiet assurance that no fever goes unnoticed. By the time sunlight filters through high windows, Dumuzi and Abhigal finish their rounds, hearts buoyed by small signs of healing. In a side chamber, Ninsun Meher convenes a small class of apprentices around a low table loaded with minerals, various clays, charcoal, and powdered beetle shells. She taps a clay tablet inscribed with elemental properties, porosity, absorbency, and heat-drawing capacity. Today's lesson: why Sumerian clay binds with beetle powder to form an effective febrifuge. She crushes a handful of pure white clay and mixes it with beetle powder in a clear clay bowl. Holding the mixture aloft, she explains how the clay's fine granules absorb heat, while the beetle's chitinous shell carries active compounds into the skin. Apprentices lean forward, eyes bright, as she demonstrates adding incremental ratios, 1 part beetle to 3 parts clay, and shows how texture and color shift with each adjustment. Each apprentice then tries their hand, weighing powders on copper scales and stirring with reed spatulas. Ninsun Meher moves between them, offering gentle corrections. Too much beetle and the paste won't adhere. Too little and its potency wanes. By midday, the room hums with focused energy, future physicians gaining both scientific understanding and reverent appreciation for their ancient craft. In the temple library's cool recess, priest-physician Enlil-Ideen hosts a debate with visiting scholar-physician Azara of Kish. Scrolls and tablets strewn across a long stone table, some detailing beetle remedies, others philosophical treatises on fate and divine will. A small audience of healers listens from reed benches. Azara argues that medicine, however precise, cannot thwart divine decree. Thoughtful. A fever sent by Enlil must run its course, regardless of powdered beetles. Enlil-Ideen counters, calmly. Yet the gods gifted us clay and insects as tools of mercy. Their voices are soft but impassioned, weaving theology and empiricism. At stake is the balance between ritual submission and active intervention. As candles gutter, Azara plucks a tablet from the pile. Testimonies of patients whose fevers receded only after beetle treatments. He reads in measured tones, evoking murmurs of assent. Enlil-Ideen concedes that human hands serve divine intent, then posits that combining ritual with rational cure honors both spheres. The debate ends in respectful nods, and each scholar records the other's key arguments on fresh tablets. In that dim library, Sumerian medicine's intellectual depth shines, its practitioners ever questioning. As evening settles, the infirmary's small chapel glows with lamplight. A humble alcove houses a carved relief of Gula, goddess of healing. Dumuzi and Ninasina kneel before the relief, each holding a small clay tablet etched with the day's gratitude. Names of patients healed and those still under care. They offer libations of date wine and sprinkle rose petals before the relief, murmuring a joint prayer. Gula, may your gentle hand guide our remedies and comfort the afflicted. The scent of petals and wine lingers as they place tablets in a woven basket. A single oil lamp flickers, its flame reflecting in their hopeful eyes. Behind them, a brass brazier holds burning juniper, its smoke weaving through the alcove, carrying their words upward. Nearby, the temple cat curls at the base of the relief. In the hush, the act of prayer feels inseparable from the day's medical labors, faith and science entwined in humble devotion. Late into the night, Akurgal, the palace physician, keeps vigil over the fever ward's quiet rows of pallets. Lanterns cast a warm glow on each patient's weary face. He moves slowly, reed stylus in hand, checking each clay tablet for updated fever readings and ensuring beetle clay paste is reapplied before moonrise. He pauses at the royal guard Ur-Nahum's pallet. The guard's fever flickers back, his brow damp with sweat. Akurgal soothes him with a whisper. Drink this cooled paste. Let it carry heat away. His practiced hand applies a fresh layer to the guard's temples. Nearby, a trainee watches, clutching a small jar of paste. A Kurgal offers a brief nod, entrusting him to continue rounds in the northern wing. Outside the ward's wooden door, the faint echo of temple bells marks each hour. Inside, a Kurgal's steady footsteps and the ward's hush form a lullaby for the afflicted. As he finishes his circuit, he pauses by the window, staring at the stars. He murmurs a final blessing for all under his care, then returns to his work, ever vigilant until dawn breaks once more. In the cool marble-floored scriptorium of Nippur's Grand Library, scribe Enlil-Tar crafts the healing scroll, a compendium of beetle-clay fever cures destined for distant temples. Sunlight streams through high windows, illuminating dust motes that dance above low tables piled with papyrus and clay tablets. Enlil-Tar unrolls a fresh sheet of treated papyrus and dips his reed brush into dark ink. He writes the scroll's opening lines in flowing Akkadian. In faith and observation, this remedy of earth and scarab shall endure. Each section he outlines mirrors the clay tablet's chapters: divination, preparation, application, case studies. Nearby, an assistant unfurls a previously baked tablet, reading aloud precise cuneiform ratios so Enlil-Tar can translate them into narrative form. As Enlil-Tar works, courtiers and visiting scholars enter to inspect progress. He pauses to explain how the scroll's portability will spread Sumerian medicine beyond temple walls to caravanserais, palace clinics, even remote villages. When a mistake mars a character, he carefully lifts the reed brush to amend it, ensuring the scroll's authority remains unassailable. By noon, he rolls the scroll and ties it with a silk cord, ready for dispatch by river barge. On the broad deck of a wooden barge, drifting down the Euphrates, trader Ashur-ad-Din secures the healing scroll alongside amphorae of oil and jars of beetle-clay paste. Oarsmen chant a steady rhythm, guiding the vessel past reed-lined banks. The sky is pale blue, and the river's current murmurs against the hull. Ashur-ad-Din checks the silk-wrapped scroll, its silk cord knotted with a tiny scarab charm, a token of protection. He consults his ledger, noting the scroll's destination, Uruk's House of Healing. Below deck, a caretaker tends to crates of amphorae, ensuring no jostled paste leaks into precious trading goods. As date palms drift by, Ashur-ad-Din recalls the scroll's significance, a bridge between temple wisdom and lay practice. He imagines distant physicians unrolling its text, learning the beetle cure and adapting it to local herbs. Ahead, a flurry of waterfowl lifts from the river, startled by the barge's passing. The journey will take days, but each ripple carries Sumerian knowledge farther downstream. At sunset, the barge docks beside Uruk's stepped quay. Torches flicker along broad stone steps leading to the House of Healing, a sandstone building crowned with glazed brick reliefs of Gula. Ashur-ad-Din unloads the scroll in jars, greeted by Chief Physician Zarbanitu and her acolytes. Zarbanitu drapes a violet shawl over her shoulders and examines the scroll's seal imprint. She breaks the seal, unfurls the papyrus, and studies the first lines by torchlight. Her eyes shine with recognition as she sees familiar ratios and new case narratives compiled from Nippur's temple. Acolytes carry clay jars into the inner sanctum, while Zarbanitu assigns apprentices to translate the scroll into local dialect. The courtyard hums with respectful activity, footsteps on flagstones, soft rustle of papyrus, and low voices exchanging insights. Under the deepening sky, the scroll's journey culminates. Sumerian medicine is reborn in Uruk, ready to heal a new generation. In Uruk's courtyard garden, Zarbanitu convenes a circle of local healers around a low marble table. Laid out before them are jars of beetle-clay paste from Nippur, a native clay mixed with pomegranate rind. She encourages each healer to propose modifications based on regional herbs, tamarisk buds, date palms pollen, and wild rue. Healer Ereshkigal crushes tamarisk buds into a mortar, adding them to a small beetle-clay sample. Another healer, Ilutu, suggests infusing the paste with lotus sap for a soothing sheen. Zabanitu nods, scribbling notes on a fresh tablet. The group debates ratios. One healer argues for a 1:4 beetle-to-clay blend to accommodate stickier lotus additions. As the garden's night breeze stirs papyrus reeds, the healers test each new formula on small patches of linen, gauging drying time and scent. Their laughter and thoughtful murmurs fill the air. By evening's end, they agree on a Uruk variant, integrating lotus and tamarisk into the ancient scourge remedy, proof that Sumer's cures flourish when rooted in local soil. Years later, in a quiet domestic study, a young scholar named Shulgi pores over the Nippur healing scroll, now a treasured heirloom. Thoughtful, his eyes scan described scenes of temple rituals and riverbank clay gathering. He touches the silken tie and scarab charm, feeling the weight of centuries. Beside him, unopened jars of original beetle-clay paste rest in a wooden chest. Shulgi contemplates carrying the scroll onward, perhaps to Ashur or Babylon, ensuring its wisdom endures. In the lamplight, he begins copying lines onto fresh papyrus, preserving the text against time's decay. Each stroke echoes Enliltar's earlier labours. Each passage rekindles the promise of relief for fevered bodies yet to come. As he writes, a sense of kinship links past and present, every quill scratch, every measured mixture, every whispered prayer. In this humble act of transcription, Sumerian medicine's legacy lives on, its story carried forward by those who believe that in crushed beetles and sacred clay lies an ancient path to healing. In a modest mud brick home on Ur's outskirts, village matron Bel Tuana kneads dough for flatbread as dusk settles. A small fire crackles in the hearth, its embers illuminating woven baskets of clay and dried scarab shells on a low shelf. When her husband returns from a long day in the fields, she places aside her rolling pin and gathers materials for a fever paste. Beltuana crushes clay between her palms until it feels like cool river silt. She adds crushed beetle fragments, her family's secret reserve, and a drizzle of honey from last season's harvest. As she mixes, she hums a soft tune about the scarab's gentle magic. Her children watch from a reed mat, curious. When the paste feels smooth, she applies a thin layer to her husband's temples, murmuring, "May the earth draw away your fever's heat." His cough eases as he inhales deeply the honeyed scent. Outside, the evening sky darkens, and the village dogs bark softly their own watch. Inside, the hearth's warmth and family chatter form a cocoon of comfort. In this humble kitchen, temple knowledge meets everyday care, proving that even far from ziggurats, the simplest remedies bind earth and insect into healing hope. At dawn, on a dusty crossroads, peddler Kasumala sets out a woven blanket to display small leather pouches labeled Fever Cure Kit. Each pouch contains a pinch of beetle-clay powder, a tiny reed spatula, and illustrated instructions on a scrap of papyrus. Travelers pause, intrigued by the promise of temple-grade medicine in pocket-sized form. Kasumila greets each passerby with a soft smile. "Carry relief wherever you roam." He demonstrates by mixing pouch contents with river water in a clay cup, stirring to a thick paste, then applies a dab to his own wrist, gesturing to the color shift. Curious merchants and caravaneers inspect his wares, testing paste consistency on cloth scraps. Some barter spices for kits, Others simply marvel at such convenience. As the sun climbs, Kasum-ila repacks sold pouches and scribbles new orders on his tablet. His leather satchel, bulging with fresh kits, swings gently on his hip. Despite the crossroads bustle, a quiet respect surrounds his display, proof that even outside temple walls, the Beetle Remedies' reputation endures in every well-prepared pouch. In a shaded courtyard, teacher matron Samu Cardis gathers neighborhood children around a low stone bench. Between them lie wooden models of ziggurats, clay tablets scribbled with cuneiform, and small clay bowls of beetle-clay paste. Today's lesson: how to prepare and respect the scarab remedy. Samu Cardis dips her stylus into ink and writes, "Earth plus scarab equals healing," on a tablet. She then passes around a bowl of paste, encouraging each child to feel its cool texture and smell its earthy scent. With gentle humor, she explains that long ago, scholars believed beetles contained fire of the earth and thus could draw fever away. The children giggles as she recounts a myth about a scarab that sneezed heat from the god of sun. Next, she teaches them to inscribe their initials on clay labels and attach them to tiny jars. Practice for future apprentices. Each child takes turns crushing a bit of clay, measuring beetle powder with a reed spatula, and sealing their jar with a dab of date syrup glue. As they work, Samu Cardis offers encouraging nods, ensuring both reverence and confidence. By lesson's end, the children leave with proud smiles and jars in hand. Tomorrow's healers already learning that medicine begins with curiosity, care, and respect for ancient knowledge. As twilight deepens, traveling bard Aurili sets up beside the village well, his lyre slung across his shoulder. A small crowd gathers, curious about his latest composition. The Scarab's Whisper, a tale celebrating the Beetle Remedies' first triumph. Soft torchlight flickers on eager faces as Aurili's fingers pluck gentle chords. He sings of Iannassia's clay and beetles, weaving humor, who knew tiny shells held more power than giant ziggurats, with soothing imagery of moonlit temple courtyards. Each verse ends with a whisper refrain. Let Earth's small child bring peace to flesh's fire. Listeners sway, entranced by the melody and the promise of healing. A mother hums along, remembering the paste that soothed her fevered child. An elder nods, recalling days when temple fires guided every remedy. After the final chord, Aurili bows deeply and distributes small scrolls of lyrics, written in neat cuneiform. He urges the crowd, thoughtful, carry this song home, that its healing may echo in hearths and hearts. As people disperse under starlight, they hum the refrain, a lullaby of relief spreading beyond any single jar or temple, carried on the gentlest melody of history. Late at night in a modest home, grandmother Nisaba sits by her granddaughter's bedside, humming a soft lullaby. Garabius, little friend, draw warmth away and softly mend. She dips her finger into a tiny jar of beetle clay paste and presses a gentle dot on the child's temple. The girl's eyes flutter, comforted by the paste's cool touch and the grandmother's singing. Nisaba's voice is low and soothing, weaving memories of her own mother's bedtime rituals. She recounts how scarab shells glimmered under temple lamps, promising relief for every fever. With each verse, her hand smooths the child's hair and lightly pats her hand for reassurance. The walls bear simple paintings of beetles and healing deities, faded but cared for. As the final notes fade, the child drifts into peaceful sleep, the jar of paste resting on a small clay dish by her pillow. Nisaba smiles, extinguishes a clay lamp, and steps into the cool night. In that hush, the lullaby lingers, proving that the Beetle Remedy's true power lies not only in its ingredients, but in the gentle rituals and loving voices that carry it from one generation to the next. In the marble-floored hall of the palace infirmary, Chief Royal Physician Adad Nadin surveys rows of clay jars lined on a lacquered shelf. Though trained in temple arts, he questions the beetle-clay paste's consistency. He summons 2 court attendants to bring samples from recent batches. By torchlight, he examines the texture and aroma, then consults his clay tablet of clinical records. He murmurs to his apprentice, whispering, "These mixtures vary too widely. Last week's batch drew fever. This one barely cools." With a reed stylus, he underscores entries noting inconsistent recovery times. Adad-Nadin proposes controlled trials. Half the patients receive paste, half only clay or honey. His assistant, surprised wide-eyed, hesitates at the implied challenge to tradition. Outside, distant lyre music drifts in, the festive court life unaware of this brewing doubt. Adad-Nadin dips his finger into a jar, touches his tongue to gauge bitterness, then tests a small patch on his own wrist. The paste clings oddly, leaving a slick sheen. He frowns, then sets the jar aside. In that moment, the palace's promise of infallible cures meets the physician's insistence on empirical rigor, planting seeds of skepticism amid ancient faith. In Ur's Grand Council chamber, marble columns rise to frescoed ceilings. City elders, merchants, and temple dignitaries gather to discuss public health. At the center, Adad-Nadin presents his proposal: standardize or suspend the beetle remedy until trials confirm efficacy. He gestures toward a large clay tablet summarizing mixed results. Temple priests bristle at his findings. High Priestess Ninmug defends the remedy's divine roots, calling it gift of Gula. A heated yet subdued exchange follows. Empirical evidence versus sacred tradition. A merchant leader recounts farmers praising the paste's quick relief, while a scribe cites a recent death linked to an impure batch. Each argument echoes off stone walls, punctuated by the council's gavel. After tense deliberation, the council decrees a middle path: continue the remedy under tighter quality controls, and launch sanctioned trials led by palace physicians and temple healers jointly. The chamber erupts into respectful nods and whispered relief. As torchbearers guide departing members through arched doorways, the council's compromise signals a new era, where science and ritual must coexist in Sumer's pursuit of health. In a shadowy apothecary shop near the city gates, herbalist-alchemist Ilumorba experiments with refining the beetle remedy. Shelves of glass jars filled with powders and tinctures line curved walls. Ilumorba mixes fine copper filings into the beetle-clay paste, believing trace metals may enhance heat absorption. He heats the mixture over a small clay brazier, stirring with an iron rod. Wisps of steam rise as he adds a drop of jasmine oil to improve scent. His apprentice, clutching a reed ladle, observes the shifting colors, deepening from pale tan to warm bronze. Ilumorba measures temperature with a curved reed thermometer, nodding when the paste cools to skin-safe warmth. Next, he inscribes "Copper-Enhanced Cure" on a fresh clay label, placing it beside standard jars. He tests adhesion on a linen patch, noting improved consistency. Outside, dusk falls, and incense from a nearby shrine wafts in. Here, innovation and tradition merge. A small shop's alchemy offering fresh hope where form and function unite in every metallic fleck. At a lavish banquet celebrating the council's compromise, nobles recline on cushioned benches around low tables, heaped with roasted fowl and fruit. Candlelight flickers on polished bronze plates. Adad-Nadin and High Priestess Ninmug sit side by side, cups of pomegranate wine in hand. A visiting dignitary from Mari raises a toast, enthusiastically, to progress and preservation. Conversation turns to fever remedies. Adad-Nadin speaks softly of clinical rigor. Ninmug counters with the paste's storied lineage. Around them, guests nod, some intrigued, others reverent. The musician's lute underscores the debate's gentle tension. Near the hearth, Ilumkuba discreetly offers small copper-enhanced samples to curious courtiers. They taste the paste's smoother blend, murmuring approval. One noblewoman, skeptical at first, smiles. This version bears refinement, worthy of palace tables. The mingling of flavors and ideas reflects Sumer's dynamic culture, where healing traditions adapt amid comfortable luxury and intellectual curiosity. Under cover of night, a secretive cadre, concerned that skepticism threatens tradition, slips into the scriptorium. Led by a zealous temple scribe, they aim to destroy records of failed trials and apothecary innovations. Cloaked figures extinguish lamps and begin tearing pages from scrolls detailing clinical critiques and copper-enhanced formulas. In the shadows, apprentice Idin Ila confronts them, clutching the original trial tablets. "You erase progress, not heresy," he pleads. The temple scribe, robes drawn tight, retorts, "We protect divine secrets from profane hands." Tensions flare. Torches flare in frightened faces. Idin Ila snatches a scroll bundle, tucks it under his robe and flees into moonlit streets. By dawn, fragments smolder amid overturned stools and ink-stained floors. The surviving scrolls and tablets, hidden by Idin Ila, become the seedbed for future rediscovery. Though tradition burns its challengers tonight, the spark of inquiry endures, safeguarded by one brave apprentice who honors both faith and reason's fragile alliance. In the sun-drenched courtyard of Pergamon's great library, scholar Demetrios unfurls a vellum scroll translated from an Aramaic copy of the Nippur healing scroll. Golden light filters through colonnades, dust motes dancing across columns. He traces his fingertip along cuneiform-derived script, marveling at instructions to mix scarab powder with river clay. This remedy, so far from its Sumerian cradle, has traveled centuries and empires to reach his hands. Demetrios adjusts his purple-dyed chiton, embroidered with a narrow gold trim, then steps inside a cool reading room. He places the scroll on a marble lectern and consults reference papyri from Egypt and Persia. With a slender bronze stylus, he annotates Greek marginalia, hos skoni skaravalu, like scarab dust. Nearby, an assistant rolls fresh papyrus for copying. The hush of turning pages and distant flutes from a music lesson blend into a contemplative hush. Despite colleagues' skepticism, Demetrios resolves to test the remedy. He orders a shipment of scarabs and fine clay from Asia Minor. As he seals a request tablet, he imagines Aesculapius smiling upon the mingling of Greek reason and ancient Babylonian lore. Here, in Pergamon's embrace of knowledge, Sumer's beetle remedy finds new life, its journey echoing across time and culture. In the cool stone corridors of Alexandria's medical school, physician Philonos prepares for his first experimental trial. On low tables, glass flasks hold Nile clay, dried scarab shells, and vials of rosewater. He reviews Demetrios's Greek-translated protocols, equal parts clay and crushed beetle, stirred with scented water. Philonos wears a simple white tunic, his dark hair bound with a leather headband. By lamplight, he measures powders on bronze scales, then mixes them into a glossy paste, inhaling its earthy aroma. His assistants, young men and women in loose robes, observe in respectful silence. He applies small dots of paste to volunteer patients with mild fevers, explaining in measured tones, this ancient cure may draw out heat as gently as the Nile withdraws floodwaters. Outside, the Mediterranean breeze carries the distant hum of scholarly debate. Philonos records each patient's temperature and comfort level on a wax tablet, eager to compare outcomes to Hippocratic methods. As jars of prepared paste line shelves, he feels a quiet thrill. A ritual born beneath Mesopotamian ziggurats now finds new purpose under Alexandria's mosaic ceilings. In Kos's famed healing school, Hippocratic physician Thales of Knidos examines a farmer named Leandros, fevered after a summer storm. Thales, clad in a dyed saffron robe, listens as Leandros recounts chills and sweats. Instead of the usual herbal decoction, Thales presents a small flask labelled Terricola scarabi, pressed from Philonos's shipment. Beside a marble basin, Thales mixes the paste with cool spring water, producing a smooth, pale mixture. He applies it to Leandros's temples and soles, explaining calmly, "Let this earth-born medicine draw your fever's fire." Leandros steadies himself against the basin's rim, inhaling the paste's sweet earth scent. Thales instructs his physician apprentice to chart Leandros's vital signs throughout the day. The apprentice watches as Thales thoughtfully records notes on palm leaf tablets, bracing the intersection of empirical observation and foreign tradition. Other students peer around the courtyard's columns, intrigued by this melding of Sumerian remedy and Hippocratic method. By dusk, Thales concludes that while the paste offers soothing comfort, it requires further refinement to match Greek sensibilities. He consigns half the remaining jars to continued trials, pondering how to adapt dosage and ritual. In the amber glow of oil lamps, the ancient Sumerian cure persists, subject to new scrutiny by the cradle of Western medicine. In Rhodes's bustling agora, merchant physician Pythias sets up a modest stall beneath brightly coloured awnings. Jars of clay beetle paste mingle with local remedies. He pins a hand-lettered papyrus sign. Ancient Mesopotamian fever cure, try a sample. Curious shoppers pause, drawn by his confident yet gentle pitch. Pythias wears a light chlamys cloak, its hem embroidered with hoplite shields, symbol of Rhodes's sea guard. He mixes a sample batch in a shallow bowl, adding honey to suit local tastes, then hands out tiny clay cups for passers-by to taste. They sniff the aroma, hints of earth and rose, and cautiously apply a dot to their wrists. Murmurs of approval ripple through the crowd. Cool, pleasant, soothing. Meanwhile, a travelling physician from Carthage wanders by and inquires about Pythias's source. Pythias unrolls a fragment of Demetrios's translation, pointing to the original cuneiform instructions. The Carthaginian nods, scribbling notes on a wax tablet before ordering a dozen jars. As sunlight shifts toward late afternoon, Pythias's stall thrums with energy, a testament to how a remedy forged in Sumer migrates by trade and translation to distant shores. Centuries later, in a silent excavation tent near Ur's ancient ruins, modern archaeologist Dr. Layla Hassan examines shards of clay jars inscribed with faint cuneiform and Greek marginalia. She brushes soil from a broken lid, revealing traces of powdered beetle and clay under UV light. Layla, dressed in khaki overalls and a wide-brimmed hat, carefully transcribes jar markings into her field notebook. Thoughtful, she marvels at the dual inscriptions. Sumerian symbols beside Hellenistic Greek script. These artifacts attest to the beetle remedy's remarkable journey through time and culture. By tent lamp, she mixes residue into a small mortar for chemical analysis, noting its unique composition, chitin fragments and mineral-rich silt. The paste's molecular signature confirms the ancient text's claims. Fire-drawing clay. She photographs each sample and prepares them for laboratory study, hoping to uncover new insights for modern fever treatments. As dawn breaks over rolling sands, Layla pauses to reflect. In these broken jars, past and present converse. From temple priests and Greek scholars to modern scientists, the simple act of crushing beetles into clay has endured, an echo of empires bound by the universal quest to soothe the fevered human body. In the cool, lantern-lit halls of Baghdad's House of Wisdom, scholar-physician Ibn Masawi unrolls a Sumerian-derived scroll translated into Middle Persian. The high ceilings echo with whispered recitations as scribes in ivory tunics copy text onto fresh parchment. Ibn Masawi dips his reed stylus into dark ink and renders the beetle-clay remedies ratios into Arabic script. Nakhalatatin ma mashuk al-khanafis. Clay bran with beetle powder. He pauses to compare the Sumerian case studies, feverish shepherds, temple patients, with local anecdotes of heat stroke under the desert sun. Across a low table, his assistant Al-Faraj consults a bound compendium of Greek and Persian medical works. Together, they annotate the recipe with new notes on warming spices and calming rosewater, aiming to suit Arab palates and climates. Outside, the tigress's soft murmur drifts through open arches. Lamps flicker on carved marble floors, illuminating piles of papyrus and vellum. As Ibn Masawayh seals his completed translation with a small clay seal bearing the Abbasid emblem, he reflects on the Remedies' journey, how crushed scarabs from Sumer unite with Baghdad's scholarly ingenuity to soothe fevered bodies across the caliphate. In a shaded courtyard behind Damascus's famed Nuri hospital, physician Al-Hussein al-Razi tests the Arabic version of the beetle-clay paste. Terracotta bowls hold mixtures infused with camphor and orange blossom water, local additions said to enhance cooling. Al-Razi, in a copper-trimmed robe, watches as apprentices stir the paste with reed spatulas, their linen aprons brushed with clay dust. A merchant afflicted by heat exhaustion sits on a low marble bench. Al-Razi applies the new paste to the man's temples, a comforting phrase. Basmillah, litabred nar al-harah. In God's name, let the fire of heat cool. The merchant inhales deeply the fragrant vapors and deeply, his cheeks losing their flush. Nearby, students note his pulse and perspiration, comparing results to traditional formulas. As the afternoon sun reveals intricate tilework overhead, Al-Razi records his findings on a palm leaf scroll. Camphor integration reduces skin irritation. Orange blossom sweetens application. He sends copies to Cairo's medical schools, confident that Damascus's innovations will ripple across the Islamic world. In the cool, lantern-lit halls of Baghdad's House of Wisdom, scholar-physician Ibn Masawayh unrolls a Sumerian-derived scroll translated into Middle Persian. The high ceilings echo with whispered recitations as scribes in ivory tunics copy text onto fresh parchment. Ibn Masawayh dips his reed stylus into dark ink and renders the beetle-clay remedies ratios into Arabic script. Nakhalatatin ma mashuk al-khanafis. Clay bran with beetle powder. He pauses to compare the Sumerian case studies, feverish shepherds, temple patients, with local anecdotes of heat stroke under the desert sun. Across a low table, his assistant Al-Faraj consults a bound compendium of Greek and Persian medical works. Together, they annotate the recipe with new notes on warming spices and calming rosewater, aiming to suit Arab palates and climates. Outside, the tigress's soft murmur drifts through open arches. Lamps flicker on carved marble floors, illuminating piles of papyrus and vellum. As Ibn Masawayh seals his completed translation with a small clay seal bearing the Abbasid emblem, he reflects on the Remedies' journey, how crushed scarabs from Sumer unite with Baghdad's scholarly ingenuity to soothe fevered bodies across the caliphate. In Cordoba's Grand Lecture Hall, physician-scholar Zainab bint al-Khawarizmi addresses a semicircle of attentive students. The stone chamber resonates with the soft scratching of reed pens on vellum. Before her lies an open manuscript showing Arabic and Latin versions of the beetle-clay remedy. Zainab, in a violet silk robe trimmed with gold embroidery, explains, thoughtful,
"This ancient cure, from Sumer to Baghdad and Damascus, now illuminates our understanding of humoral balance."
She demonstrates by mixing a small sample in a crystal bowl, adding a drop of local saffron oil. The paste's warm hue draws admiring gasps. A student from Seville, quill poised, asks how saffron alters the remedy's potency. Zainab smiles, reciting her own trials.
It soothes both fever and spirit.
She then distributes labelled vials to pairs of students, instructing them to record adhesion time and aroma intensity. The hall's arches frame fleeting Andalusian sunlight, and outside the distant toll of mosquito bells signals time's passage. By lecture's end, the class is abuzz, proof that the beetle-clay's journey continues, carried by learned voices across languages and seas. In Venice's Grand Canal district, merchant Dr. Marco Salier collaborates with spice trader Yusuf al-Marconi. At a canal-side dock, crates of beetle-clay paste arrive alongside sacks of myrrh and clove. Marco, in a woolen doublet, and Yusuf, in silk kaftan, inspect the shipment under lantern glow. They step into Marco's apothecary, a room lined with Venetian glass vials and Eastern jars. Together, they blend paste samples with myrrh tincture and ground clove, stirring in a carved alabaster basin. Yusuf offers clove's antiseptic merit. Marco contributes his knowledge of European fever management. Apprentices note contrasting aromas: smoky myrrh, spicy clove, and earthy clay. As gondolas drift nearby, Marco writes a joint treatise in Italian and Arabic, titled Pontine Fever Elixir. He seals it with wax bearing Venice's lion crest. Later, he promises Yusuf,
"Our combined remedy will grace courts from the Adriatic to the Levant."
This scene of East-West medical partnership underscores the beetle-clay's enduring adaptability across cultures and commerce. In a state-of-the-art pharmaceutical lab, Dr. Sophia Patel examines a preserved sample of beetle-clay paste under a microscope. White lab coats bustle around fume hoods and HPLC machines. Under bright LED lights, the paste reveals chitin-based particles and mineral microstructures. Dr. Patel, wearing protective goggles and nitrile gloves, compares her findings to digital scans of ancient tablets. She notes active compounds in scarab exoskeletons, potential anti-inflammatory agents. Her assistant, in a turquoise lab jacket, records pH and viscosity data on a tablet. Together, they draft a journal article exploring entomological clay, bridging ancient wisdom and modern pharmacology. As mass spectrometry runs, Dr. Patel reflects, what began in Sumer and traveled through Baghdad, Damascus, Cordoba, and Venice now guides our search for novel therapeutics. She smiles, envisioning clinical trials that may yield new fever-reducing drugs. In this bright lab, the beetle-clay's millennia-long journey finds its latest chapter, where ancient remedy meets cutting-edge science in mankind's enduring quest to tame fever. In the hushed galleries of the National Museum of Iraq, Dr. Amal Al-Kabi stands before a newly unwrapped limestone relief depicting a scarab clay ritual. Soft spotlights accentuate carved cuneiform and beetle imagery. Dr. Al-Kabi, in a tailored blazer and scarf, traces her gloved fingertip along the relief's etched lines, marveling at how ancient artisans immortalized the fever remedy in stone. Museum conservator Karim, wearing a lab coat over khaki trousers, carefully brushes residual soil from the relief's crevices. His colleague Miriam photographs each detail with high-resolution equipment. Dr. Al-Kabi consults her digital catalogue, overlaying translated passages that describe temple rituals around clay beetle paste. Near a glass cabinet, jars of reconstructed paste and replica tablets offer visitors context. As a small group of academics and students gathers, Dr. Al-Kabi explains, this relief shows priests blessing the mixture, proof that the beetle remedy was both medicine and sacred act. Soft murmurs of appreciation ripple through the crowd. In that gallery's stillness, thousands of years echo back. Stone, scarab, and ritual preserved for future generations. In a candlelit scriptorium of a 13th century European monastery, Brother Anselm sits bent over a vellum folio. He wears a simple brown habit, the hood folded back to reveal a tonsured crown. With a fine quill dipped in iron gall ink, he decorates the margins of a Latin medical treatise with a hand-painted scarab motif, an homage to translated Sumerian texts. His assistant, Brother Philip, holds a ceramic inkwell and a palette of ground lapis and ochre pigments. Together they illustrate scenes of monks mixing clay and crushed beetles over a warming brazier. As Brother Anselm inscribes Pastea Scarabaeus beneath each image, he reflects on how these distant remedies blend with local herb lore. Flickering torchlight casts dancing shadows on stone walls lined with scrolls. When the illumination is complete, Brother Anselm leans back. Satisfied, his manuscript will travel to university scholars, its vivid illustrations, bridging cultures and centuries. In this silent chamber, art and medicine converge, ensuring the scarab remedy's visual legacy endures in Europe's earliest medical libraries. In a sunlit study in Florence, naturalist painter Lucia di Benedetto sketches a page for her forthcoming herbal compendium. A crimson velvet drape filters morning light onto her easel. Dressed in a silk bodice and simple linen skirt, she carefully renders a scarab beetle beside a lump of Nile clay and sprigs of rosemary. Her brush, held like a pen, captures the beetle's exoskeleton sheen. Master botanist Maestro Salviati examines her work, nodding at her anatomical accuracy. He instructs Lucia to add a note: clay and scarab, ancient fever cure. She dips her quill into sepia ink and scripts italic annotations beneath the illustration. Surrounding shelves hold specimens of crushed beetle shells in glass vials and clay lumps wrapped in parchment. As she paints, Lucia muses on how Sumer's remedies inspired the rebirth of empirical inquiry. When the page is complete, Maestro Salviati will present it to the Medicis, hoping to revive forgotten cures through scientific study. In this atelier, art, science, and history meld, ensuring the scarab clay legacy inspires Renaissance curiosity. In Victorian London's Natural History Museum, curator Helena Fairchild adjusts a life-size diorama of a Sumerian infirmary. She wears a tailored wool skirt, high-collared blouse, and pince-nez glasses. The scene features painted clay brick walls, a mock ziggurat corner, and mannequins posed mixing beetle clay paste. Pottery shards and replica scarab shells are arrayed on a wooden table under gaslight. Her assistant, Arthur Pembroke, arranges small oil lamps to highlight the scene's focal points. Together, they review the exhibit's explanatory plaque, Sumerian beetle clay remedy, ancient fever cure. Helena steps back to inspect how mannequins' linen tunics drape naturally and how shadows accentuate textured walls. She nods in approval. Visitors will feel transported to a 3000 BCE temple-infirmary. As evening visitors filter in, families marvel at the diorama's realism. Schoolchildren point at the scarab clay paste and tablets. In this grand hall, the ancient remedies image is cemented in public imagination, blending education and spectacle on a Victorian stage. In a gleaming conference hall at the International Pharmacology Symposium in Geneva, Dr. Maya Jensen stands at a podium beneath a large projection. Entomological clays revisited. Delegates from around the world, pharmacists, biochemists, and historians fill the tiered seats, silent in anticipation. Maya's slides show microscopic images of chitin fragments from scarab shells and graphs comparing fever reduction in recent clinical trials. She adjusts her white lab coat and touches the laser pointer. Our Phase 2 study indicates a 30% faster defervescence rate when using standardized beetle clay poultices versus conventional antipyretics. Applause ripples through the audience. Questions follow. A German toxicologist inquires about allergenicity. A Japanese epidemiologist asks about large-scale sourcing. Maya references her team's ethical insect harvesting protocols and sustainable clay mining partnerships. At the back, a science journalist takes rapid notes for tomorrow's feature. As the session ends, attendees converge to network, swapping business cards stamped with molecular pathways and IRB approval codes. In that modern amphitheater, the ancient scarab remedy shines under the scrutiny of rigorous science, proving its journey from temple mortar to peer-reviewed publication. In a sleek tech studio in Tokyo, VR designer Keiko Tanaka finalizes an interactive simulation. Ziggurat Infirmary, the scarab remedy. Wearing a headset and motion capture suit, she navigates a digital Sumerian temple rendered in soft ambient hues. Virtual priests gesture to clay beetle mixers. An apprentice kneels by the Euphrates bank. Keiko's colleague, programmer Ryo Nakamura, tweaks textures on a holographic scarab model, ensuring it shimmers realistically under simulated dawn light. They test user interactions, grasping reed baskets, grinding digital beetle shells, receiving ambient guidance voiced in gentle, whispered narration. Keiko smiles as the paste's earthy aroma faintly lingers, released via scent diffusion hardware synced to user actions. At launch event's demonstration kiosk, visitors don headsets and exclaim as they step into ancient Mesopotamia. Soft, bilingual narration guides them. Press trigger to scoop clay. Slowly, rotate controller to crush shells. Thoughtful, listen for temple chants. In this marriage of history and technology, the scarab clay remedy finds a new audience, immersing users in a sensory journey through time that soothes both mind and body. In a serene Balinese wellness spa overlooking rice terraces, wellness entrepreneur Sari Dewey introduces guests to the scarabaeus ritual, a facial and foot treatment using recreated Sumerian beetle-clay paste. Guests recline on teak lounges beneath swaying palms, their eyes closed as Sari's team applies a smooth, pale mask to their skin. Sari, in a flowing cotton kaftan embroidered with scarab motifs, explains, softly, the clay draws out toxins while chitin peptides support skin renewal. A certified esthetician adds rose-infused essential oils, massaging temples to lull guests toward drowsiness. The gentle breeze carries the earthy aroma of clay and subtle rose notes. Soft gamelan music plays in the background. After 20 minutes, the staff gently removes the hardened mask with warm compresses. Guests breathe deeply, skin radiant. Sari circulates cooled herbal tea made with local mint and lemongrass. She notes feedback, improved skin tone, a sense of deep calm, recording it in leather-bound journals labeled Scarabaeus Ritual Outcomes. In this lush retreat, an ancient fever-drawing paste is reborn as a sensory ceremony for modern wellness seekers. At a sun-baked excavation near ancient Eridu, a documentary team sets up cameras around a partially restored temple floor. Director Lena Ko greets Dr. Farouk Aziz, the lead archaeologist, who stands beside a reconstructed ziggurat facade. He holds a clay jar fragment still bearing flecks of beetle-clay residue. Lena, in khaki field gear and a wide-brimmed hat, signals for quiet as the cinematographer pans across the reliefs and open crates of artifacts. Her voiceover begins, thoughtful. 5,000 years ago, Sumerian healers crushed scarabs into clay, believing it drew fever's fire. Today, we uncover the legacy beneath these sands. Dr. Aziz demonstrates mixing a small batch of replica paste, using traditional tools uncovered on site, a stone mortar and reed pestle. The sound of grinding beetle shells echoes against the temple's sandstone walls. Lena captures close-ups of the paste's iridescent flecks. The archaeologist explains its ritual significance, while assistant Hassan brushes dust from cuneiform tablets. As the sun sets, the crew gathers around a camp lantern to film the wind down, discussing how ancient and modern narratives intersect. The documentary's opening segment, blending rich visuals and expert interviews, promises to bring the Scarab Remedies story to global audiences. In a minimalist urban loft studio, social media influencer Camila Reyes sets up a ring light and smartphone on a tripod. She's known for exploring unusual beauty hacks. Today's TikTok, ancient beetle clay mask. Would it calm my cystic acne? Camila, wearing a pastel headband and white lab coat over streetwear, greets viewers. Hey fam, it's Camila. Let's test this 5,000-year-old Sumerian remedy. Chuckles. She spoons a clay beetle mixture into a glass bowl, narrating its origins. Thoughtful. Crushed scarabs and river clay, used to draw out fever, now supposedly detoxes your skin. As she applies a thin layer to her cheeks, her expressive eyes widen at the mask's cool tingle. She speeds up footage of the mask drying and then peels it off dramatically, revealing glowing skin. Cut to her applying trendy LED-infused serums. Subtitles flash. Curious. Would you try this? She ends with a call to action, excited. Follow for more ancient beauty experiments. Within minutes, likes and comments surge. Viewers debate the ethics, the efficacy, and marvel at the historic backstory. In the neon glow of her studio, the scarab remedy gains a fresh TikTok viral life, bridging millennia in 60 seconds of social media spectacle. In a polished conference room at Stanford University, ethicists and biotech leaders convene for a panel, Entomophagy and Insect-Derived Therapeutics. Dr. Amina Patel, a bioethicist in a navy blazer, moderates from a sleek glass lectern. Panelists include Dr. Jensen, pharmacologist, a reptile allergist, and Dr. Hugo Marin, entomologist. Amina opens thoughtful. We must weigh cultural heritage against modern safety and ecological impact. She cues Jensen, who presents data on controlled beetle farming versus wild harvesting. The allergist raises concerns. Concerned, kiting can provoke severe reactions in sensitive individuals. Marin counters, calmly, genetic lines of non-allergic scarabs exist for lab breeding. Audience, ranging from PhD students in white coats to activists in casual attire, asks pointed questions on animal rights, sustainability, and informed consent. As the debate intensifies, Amina steers discussion toward regulatory frameworks. Thoughtful. Should beetle-clay products require FDA approval or fall under cosmetic regulation? The panel's respectful but robust discourse unfolds against a backdrop of city skyline views. In this high-caliber forum, the ancient Sumerian practice's modern resurgence is rigorously scrutinized through ethical, scientific, and cultural lenses. Before dawn's first glow, Dr. Elena Martinez enters Geneva Biotech's sterile R&D lab, where rows of fume hoods and autoclave benches gleam under LED panels. Pipettes click in synchronized rhythm as her team isolates chitin fragments from scarab exoskeleton powder, remnants of the ancient beetle remedy. Elena adjusts her safety goggles and pours a vial of acid solution into a stainless steel reactor, initiating a controlled deacetylation process to generate chitosan nanoparticles destined for modern antipyretic and antipyretic applications. She references data on her tablet, batch 14C, 92% purity, average diameter 150 nanometers. Around her, lab coats bustle. Postdoc fellow Marcus Kim analyzes zeta potential readings, while PhD candidate Aisha Khan monitors particle size distribution on a dynamic light scattering instrument. The aromatic hum of centrifuges and sterile airflow is punctuated by Elena's quiet instructions. Ensure we maintain pH at 5.2. Any drift impacts bioavailability. By mid-morning, a translucent suspension awaits freeze drying. Elena extracts a small sample, pipetting it onto a slide for fluorescence microscopy. Under magnification, iridescent particles reminiscent of ancient beetle shards glimmer in green dye. She smiles. Centuries-old chitin reborn through nanotechnology. In this high-tech crucible, Sumerian wisdom melds with 21st century ingenuity, promising a new generation of fever-soothing therapeutics. In the glass-fronted boardroom of Genova Biotech's headquarters, CEO Ariana Chen and patent attorney Jonathan Meyer finalized the patent application for nanostructured chitosan fever-modulating composition. Sunlight slants through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating legal pads and prototype vials of freeze-dried chitosan powder. Ariana, in a tailored navy blazer and silk blouse, reviews the claims with Jonathan, who wears a charcoal suit and tortoiseshell glasses. He points to technical figure 3, a TEM image showing chitosan nanoparticles adhering to clay microparticles. thoughtful. We'll define the ratio range, 1:3 to 1:5 chitosan to clay, and cover both paste and patch formats. Ariana nods, adding commercial scope, determined. Also include transdermal hydrogel and oral capsule embodiments. They scan the draft on a high-resolution monitor. Ariana's finger traces sections on the digital document. Serious. Claim 12 requires detailed binding parameters and synthesis steps. Jonathan suggests broader language to preempt competitors. At the window, the city skyline hints at global markets awaiting their innovation. With a final click, they submit the application to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, securing intellectual property rights for a remedy whose origins span 5 millennia. In the clinical wing of St. Mary's Hospital, Principal Investigator Dr. Raj Patel convenes with his research team before a line of volunteer participants in wheelchairs and chairs, each displaying mild febrile symptoms. The trial compares standard antipyretic medication with a bioadhesive chitosan clay patch derived from the beetle remedy. Dr. Patel, in scrubs and a white coat, addresses the group. Today's application will test adhesion times and temperature reduction over 4 hours. He demonstrates patch placement on a volunteer's forehead. Nurse Carla Ortiz measures baseline vitals, temperature, pulse, and skin hydration, recording data on electronic CRFs. A trial coordinator reviews informed consent forms on a tablet, ensuring compliance with IRB protocols. As the clock starts, patients settle into recliners. Under soft overhead lights, Dr. Patel observes a real-time dashboard. The chitosan patch group shows a 0.8 degrees CO's drop within 90 minutes versus 0.5 degrees CO in controls. He jots notes on his clipboard, thoughtful. Statistical significance at Pia Pen. Meanwhile, lab technicians collect blood samples to assay inflammatory cytokines. In this critical phase, centuries-old chitin meets rigorous modern science, bridging history and evidence-based medicine. At the International Pharma Expo in Basel, Genova Biotech's booth gleams with polished acrylic displays. Marketing director Lena Vogel stands beside a giant touchscreen showcasing Keto Relief Fever Patch, the commercial product derived from the beetle-clay innovation. Attendees in business attire and lab coats circulate with lanyards and tote bags. Lena, in a tailored grey pencil skirt and branded blazer, guides visitors through interactive demos. Gentle vibrations simulate patch adhesion, while LED indicators show controlled thermal feedback. She distributes trial samples and glossy brochures, highlighting clinical outcomes, 90% patient satisfaction and 40% faster fever resolution. A large video screen loops an animated timeline from Sumerian ziggurats to modern nanotech labs. Nearby, investors and KOLs, key opinion leaders, gather for a live Q&A. A biotech journalist quizzes Lena. Thoughtful, how scalable is your chitosan supply? Lena cites sustainable insect farming partnerships and automated extraction facilities. As the expo hall's afternoon sun streams through glass panels, her confident answers seal partnerships and presage global launch in pharmacies, hospitals, and wellness centers worldwide. In a brightly lit retail pharmacy in New York City, pharmacist Maya Singh unpacks the first shipment of Chito Relief fever patches. Shelves labeled anti-fever now feature uniform white boxes emblazoned with a stylized scarab clay logo. A small display stand offers free samples and informational leaflets. Maya, in a crisp white coat and name badge, scans each UPC code into the inventory system, then arranges boxes facing forward. A mother and child approach, both weary from influenza season. Maya explains dosage. Apply 1 patch to the forehead for up to 8 hours. These use chitosan microparticles to gently draw out heat. She hands them a brochure detailing product history, noting its Sumerian origins in a short sidebar. As she rings up the sale, another customer asks about side effects. Maya refers to the fact sheet. Hypoallergenic, fragrance-free, clinically tested. The pharmacy's digital sign scrolls testimonials and QR codes linking to clinical study summaries. By day's end, every box on the shelf carries the promise of an ancient cure modernized. A story spanning 5 millennia, distilled into a single over-the-counter product. Sunlight filters through linen curtains in a suburban home kitchen. Emma Hayes, a busy mother of 2, peels open a box of Cheeto Relief fever patches stored neatly beside morning coffee mugs. Her son, Liam, sits at the table in pajamas, rubbing his temple, cheeks flushed. Emma, happy, smiles reassuringly. Softly, let's try this new patch. It's based on an ancient Sumerian cure. She gently affixes the hypoallergenic patch to Liam's forehead. Within minutes, he, with relief, as the micro-textured chitosan clay blend activates. Emma fetches graphic novel-style brochures from a basket. Illustrations of scarab beetles and ziggurats, alongside modern clinical graphs. Liam flips through them, fascinated by the Remedies' 5,000-year timeline. As she pours orange juice, Emma reflects on how a mother in Ur's distant past might have soothed her own child. Here, in a tile-floored kitchen with Wi-Fi and stainless steel appliances, the same quest to calm fever connects millennia. Outside, birds chirp, life goes on, warmed by ancient ingenuity, rediscovered in contemporary care. In a bright elementary classroom, Ms. Rivera engages her 4th graders in a history science lesson. A large poster depicts a Sumerian ziggurat and a modern pharmacy shelf side by side. Wearing a denim jacket and colourful scarf, she explains, "People have treated fevers with clay and beetles for thousands of years. Now it's nanotech in a patch." Children clustered on beanbag chairs listen attentively as she passes around a clear demo patch and a small clay and scarab replica from a school lab kit. They examine under magnifying glasses, noting the paste's grainy texture and the modern patch's smooth backing. A hand-drawn timeline chalk line stretches across the whiteboard. 3000 BCE, Baghdad, Florence, New York City. As they sketch their own posters, young Maya raises her hand. Curious, can we test the paste like real scientists? Ms. Rivera nods and arranges a follow-up demo with safe clay mixtures. In this lively classroom, ancient medicine springs to life, connecting curiosity, culture, and scientific inquiry for a new generation. On a bustling plaza in downtown Chicago, commuters pause before a new public sculpture, a giant bronze scarab poised atop a stylized clay ziggurat. At its base, an interactive touchscreen displays the beetle-clay Remedies story, from Sumer to the present. Artist Miguel Santos, in paint-spattered jeans and a leather jacket, watches visitors trace timelines with gloved fingers. Nearby, a QR code invites passers-by to download an augmented reality app. Teenagers hold up phones, animating digital dust that swirls around the sculpture, tiny scarabs emerging in iridescent light. A mother explains to her daughter, explaining, "This shows how healing ideas travel through time." Office workers sip coffee outside a cafe, their conversations drifting to ancient remedies and modern biotech. As a gust stirs fall leaves, Miguel steps forward to demonstrate the app's time shift feature, allowing viewers to see the sculpture transform into a clay relief and then into a sleek pattern drawing. In this convergence of art, history, and technology, the saga of crushed beetles and healing clay becomes a living landmark, inviting every urban traveller to connect with humanity's enduring quest for relief. Late evening. In a cozy home office lined with bookshelves, Dr. Elena Martinez reviews journal proofs of her team's latest paper. Chitosan clay nanocomposites for fever modulation. A soft desk lamp illuminates pages annotated in red. She sips chamomile tea, reflecting on the journey from Geneva Biotech's first lab prototype to global clinical success. Beyond her window, city lights glimmer, reminders that each bedside application connects back to ancient practices. Elena scrolls through emailed photos. A child in New York with a fever patch. A classroom demo in Barcelona. The Chicago sculpture's AR unveiling. She smiles, thinking of the teenage student who asked, curious, can we test paste? The continuum of inquiry, from Sumerian priest-physicians to modern pharmacologists, unfolds behind every data point. Closing the journal window on her computer, Elena leans back, hands clasped. She whispers, a quiet homage, reverent, to the unseen generations who crushed scarabs and tempered clay, your wisdom lives on. Then she stands to refill her tea, ready to draft the grant proposal that will set the next chapter in motion. The day's last light fades as our narrator's voice draws to a gentle close. Picture a solitary reed on a calm riverbank at twilight, its reflection quivering on still water. Imagine centuries of healers, temple priests, scholars, mothers, each adding a grain of clay or a beetle shell to the flowing current of knowledge. Let your breath slow. Feel the earth's cool embrace as if clay and chitin mingle beneath your eyelids. Hear the soft ripple of river water and distant temple bells drifting on the breeze. With each exhale, release fevered thoughts. With each inhale, drawing quiet confidence from ages past. As darkness settles, imagine the glow of a single oil lamp casting dancing shadows on ancient walls. This lamp symbolizes enduring curiosity, our shared flame across millennia. You have journeyed from Sumer's clay floors to tomorrow's laboratories, bearing witness to humanity's gentle quest to soothe suffering. Now surrender to rest. May this story's soft echo serenade your dreams, reminding you that healing lies not only in remedies, but in the hands and hearts that wield them. Good night, fellow traveler. May peace find you as easily as clay holds water, and dreams cradle you as softly as crushed beetles once drew fever away.